A lot of people are involved in research, and often research is described as a vague extracurricular packed with a bunch of fancy but cool scientific words, and often it doesn't feel very approachable. Well, I hope I can work on changing that perception with this video. And this video will be broken down into two parts. One, how to find research opportunities, and two, how to make the most out of those opportunities. And before we get started, I'll introduce myself. So, hi, my name is Serena, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Serena Ki Kahani. Here, I post about education, science, creativity, and student life. And I hope you'll join me along for the journey. And without further ado, let's get started. Part one, finding research opportunities. So before we even go through lab websites or look for research opportunities, I think it's first very important to define what we're looking to gain from the opportunity. Is it experience in lab skills or techniques, exposure to a new field of science, or the chance to answer a question in the field through research and experimentation? And everyone will look to gain something different from their research experience, and that's completely okay. But going with that in mind will help you find labs that are a good fit and mentors that are a good fit. So now, next thing is to go on your university's website and go to a certain department and click the research tab. And here I'm just doing it for some university. And definitely go through all the faculty profiles and just kind of skim through them. And again, here it's really helpful to go in with an idea of what topic you're interested in researching. So perhaps it has to do with neuroscience or even within neuroscience, Alzheimer's disease or cognition. So something somewhat specific. So this way it makes narrowing down the emails you have to send out or the people you want to reach out to rather. And going in with a certain topic in mind will help you find labs that maybe you're more passionate about contributing to. And it just makes the process feel less daunting and overwhelming. So I would say initially narrow it down to about five faculty labs, because this way it'll save you a lot of time when writing and sending out those emails. And it's better to write emails or well-researched emails to five faculty members than write a bunch of vague or generic emails to a bunch of people and not get a response back. So definitely do your research here, perhaps keep a document and kind of write down the labs that you're interested in, what publications they've put out there, and basically what you already know about the topic and what you're looking to learn by being in the lab. And I also think it's really helpful to actually read through one of these publications. It doesn't have to be an experimental article, but it could be a review article. So this way you kind of get acclimated to the type of research they're doing, and you can actually see whether this is something you're passionate about and whether this is something you're interested in learning more about. And again, you don't have to understand all the research and technical jargon you come across, but you should be able to give a brief overview of what these labs are doing and most importantly, how you aim to contribute. So now the next step is to write these emails. There's no one size fits all approach to do this, but from my experience, I found that PIs are busy and that it's really important to keep at least the first initial email short. In this initial email, like I said, there's many different ways to do this, and I think it's just really important to find your own style, which you'll do as you send more of these emails. But I remember what I did was that I just kind of introduced myself, said what major I'm in, and kind of what publication or specific point of research from the lab I found interesting and how I wanted to contribute to this. And then I asked to set up a meeting to discuss more because really a lot of this, I guess, conversation will happen during this meeting. And also, something else to keep in mind is that because a lot of PIs are busy, it might be really helpful to email PhD students or postdocs instead, since after all, in the lab, it's more likely you'll be working directly with one of these people as opposed to the PI themselves. And I think it's also helpful to reach out to undergrads to see their experience in the lab and to see how you could kind of get involved potentially. So after you send those emails, you probably won't get a response back for a while, and that's okay. This is just how getting a research opportunity is. But I think the key thing is to not give up, and then also feel free to send a follow-up email and just continue researching more faculty or more labs that you may be interested in. So hopefully once you do get a reply back, either from the PI themselves or a PhD student or postdoc in the lab, you're probably going to want to set up a meeting now. And during this initial meeting, whether it's in person or on Zoom, the key thing to emphasize here is why you're passionate about the research, what you're hoping to learn, and that also you're eager to learn. Since in a lab environment, you're going to have to learn a lot of new things, a lot of new lab techniques, and you really have to be on top of that and be willing to learn. And the most important thing, what you're hoping to gain from this experience. Are you looking to eventually lead your own project? Are you looking to just gain experience or see scientific concepts in action? Emphasizing all these things is really important, and communicating the last part, especially what you're hoping to gain, is key towards determining whether this lab is a good fit. And if whoever you're meeting with is enthusiastic about your goals and what you're hoping to gain, then this is a sign that the lab is definitely a good fit. And also take time to listen to what the person you're meeting with is saying, because often the lab may have a specific way or protocol, I guess, for training undergraduates. You may have to shadow for a few weeks first, and then you'll learn the techniques, and then maybe you'll get more into the scientific nitty-gritty stuff, especially as it comes to eventually pursuing a question of interest to you. Okay, so now on to part two. So hopefully you were able to find a research opportunity now, and now making the most out of it is definitely the next big step, because it just doesn't stop at finding the research opportunity. Now you're here, and now what do you do? This is something that I asked, and honestly, I'm still not sure if I have all the answers. But the biggest thing I learned is that it's all going to be very confusing, and that it's important to really embrace that confusion. You could prepare as much as you want for the opportunity by reading a bunch of scientific papers, watching videos on how to do wet lab techniques such as passing cells, things that I all did. But even after doing all these things, I still felt very confused. I still felt like I didn't know much of what was going on. Because the thing with research is that it's a journey of incremental learning. It's a journey of constant iteration, and it's a journey of feeling lost and then trying to find your way through as you navigate all the new information and new ideas circulating around you. And especially in wet lab, a lot of people start by learning the techniques and experiments first and just really learning how they all work. And for me, when I was doing this, when my mentor would kind of go over some type of experiment or like the steps for it, I would always ask why after each step. And it's really important to understand the ins and outs of these assays, because they're basically applied to do almost anything in the lab. And they're especially applied when you're trying to answer your own research question one day. And it's also important to write everything down in lab, carry a notebook around, and continue asking questions. And again, focus on the why of what you're learning. So definitely a big thing in lab. It's not only about going in and being engaged there, it's also about reading papers on your own time, I feel, and definitely asking questions and developing ideas based upon that. And you could start with a review article. So like for example, perhaps reading a review article about engineering cells in the immune system or CAR T cell therapy or something like that. And then kind of going more into the experimental articles and where scientists are actually doing research on that particular area and trying to parse through it. And again, understanding the why behind each step and each idea being presented. And as you read and develop ideas, definitely ask more questions in the lab, whether it's to the PhD student and mentor you're working with or anyone else. So that ultimately concludes this guide to getting involved in undergraduate research. And my biggest takeaway is that research is a journey of incremental learning and failed experiments, of course. From yesterday to today, in lab, it doesn't feel like I've learned that much, but over the course of a few months or longer periods of time, it feels like I've learned quite a bit, both in terms of troubleshooting experiments or concepts in immunoengineering. And I'm so happy to be sharing and documenting this journey here. So, bye bye, and see you in the next one.